The deadliest weapon on Earth is not a hypersonic missile or a biological agent. It is a single line of malicious code that changes your digital ledger from its current balance to zero. We live in an illusion. You swipe a piece of plastic and you assume the supply chain will bow to your demands. But that system requires continuous power, unbroken internet connectivity, and flawless digital authentication. What happens when the clearinghouses go dark? A banking kill switch scenario is not some fringe theory. Federal agencies run war games on this exact nightmare. When the screens freeze, the trucks stop. When the trucks stop, the grocery shelves empty in less than 72 hours. This is the timeline of a cashless collapse. A complete cessation of electronic financial transactions. It could be a highly coordinated cyber attack on financial hubs, a massive electromagnetic pulse, or a severe solar flare. In a world rapidly transitioning to a cashless society, the inability to process digital transactions means the immediate halt of modern commerce. From a tactical perspective, understanding this timeline is the only way to insulate your family. You do not prep out of paranoia. You prep for protection. You stockpile resources so your child does not look up at you with cracked lips, asking for a drink of water you do not have. Guilt is a brutal teacher downrange. It is a worse teacher in your own living room. You must shift your mindset from basic self-preservation to absolute protection. You are the barrier between your family and the chaos. Hope is not a strategy. Most people guess they have enough food, but the math says otherwise. When the panic starts, guessing gets you killed. Go to protocolsurvival.com, calculate your survival score, and enroll in our free Catastrophe Survival 101 course right now. Get the training before you need it. You need a baseline understanding of logistics, calorie counts, and operational security. Consider this course your mandatory pre-deployment briefing. Do not wait until the transaction terminals go dark to figure this out. Phase 1 begins without a booming announcement. It starts as an inconvenience. You are at the grocery store, and the card reader flashes a network error. You try a different card. Same result. The cashier sighs, apologizing for the glitch. Behind you, the line grows impatient. This is the moment your situational awareness must activate. While others wait and complain, you need to recognize the anomaly. The modern grid does not just glitch across all payment platforms simultaneously without a major structural fault. People suffer from normalcy bias. It is the psychological refusal to believe a disaster is happening. The people in that checkout line will assume the system will reboot in 5 minutes. You do not have 5 minutes. You leave the cart and head straight for the nearest ATM. If the local servers are still communicating with the backup systems, you might have a tiny window to pull physical cash. In a true grid-down collapse, ATMs become heavy metal boxes of useless paper. Act fast. You punch in your PIN. The screen lags, but it spits out small denominations. You need 1s, 5s, and 20s. A $100 bill is useless if a desperate store owner cannot make change for a loaf of bread. Across town, gas station pumps stop authenticating credit cards. Drivers start yelling at the attendants. Banking apps fail to load, displaying generic maintenance messages. The sensory overload of a society abruptly cut off from its dopamine feed of instant commerce begins to echo through the streets. You use that physical cash immediately. Do not hoard it yet. Trade it for foundational goods before the herd realizes what is happening. Gasoline, shelf-stable foods, bottled water, and essential medications. You pull into a local hardware store because the grocery stores are already turning into madhouses. You buy contractor bags, bleach, and every butane canister on the shelf. The clerk takes your cash gladly, completely unaware that tomorrow those green pieces of paper will not be able to buy him a drop of drinking water. By hour 3, the first wave of panic sets in. News networks, if they are still broadcasting, report a massive cyber incident. Government officials urge calm, promising that funds are safe and ledgers will be restored. Do not listen to the calming voices on the radio. Watch the physical environment. Commerce has ground to an absolute halt. Small businesses that only accept digital payments are locking their doors. Employees are walking off the job because they realise they cannot process a single transaction. Hour 4 brings the gridlock. Traffic lights might still be green, but the roads are jammed. Why? Because automated toll booths are failing. Delivery drivers cannot buy diesel to continue their routes, so they abandon their rigs on the shoulders of the highway. People are rushing home, driven by a sudden primal anxiety. The digital tether has been severed. You navigate the back roads, avoiding the main arteries. You need to get to your stronghold before the sun goes down and the real confusion begins. You pull into your driveway. The house looks the same, but the rules of engagement have changed entirely. Bring your family together. Establish the perimeter. If you have a plan to bug out to a rural location, this is the final window to make that call. Once the highways turn into parking lots of dead vehicles, you are bugging in. Lock the doors, draw the blinds, catalogue every ounce of food, water, medical supplies and fuel you possess. The lockdown protocol is now active. Phase 2 begins on the first full day of the blackout. Millions stay home, expecting the issue to be fixed by Monday morning. The neighbourhood is eerily quiet. Neighbours are standing in their driveways, looking at their phones, waiting for bars of signal that mean the banks are back online. You do not participate in the neighbourhood gossip. You are busy calculating your daily caloric and water requirements. Minimum 1 gallon of water per person per day. You inventory your supplies in total silence. By the second day, the reality of the just-in-time supply chain breaks the illusion. Modern businesses do not stockpile inventory. Supermarkets receive deliveries every 48 hours based on predictive algorithms. Without the ability to process payments, truckers cannot buy fuel. The logistics network freezes instantly. Those who realise the severity of the situation swarm the few remaining open stores. Shelves are stripped bare of bread, milk, meat and canned goods in a matter of hours. Desperation begins to replace confusion. Store owners finally realise that physical cash has limited immediate utility. Without knowing when digital banking will return, they cannot use cash to restock their own shelves from distributors who only take digital wire transfers. The big box stores lock their sliding doors. Security guards abandon their posts. Do not go out into this chaos. Avoid the masses entirely. Desperation leads to mob violence. Your pre-collapse preparations must sustain you now. Keep your head down and stay inside your secured perimeter. Day 4 brings total transportation paralysis. Public transit ceases because ticketing systems are offline and fuel reserves are dry. Hospitals, operating on backup generators, begin turning away non-critical patients. Their supply chains for pharmaceuticals and oxygen have broken down. Think about what this means for your family. If your child spikes a severe fever from a simple infection, the pharmacy is closed. The emergency room is locked down. You are on your own. This is why you built a trauma and medical kit beforehand. Day 5 is when the smell hits. Trash collection stops. Sanitation workers do not get paid, and garbage trucks have no fuel. Depending on the root cause of the banking collapse, municipal water pressure might drop as chemical deliveries to treatment plants fail. Sewage systems might back up into residential lines. Proper sanitation is critical now. More people die from dysentery and cholera in post-disaster scenarios than from direct violence. Dedicate a quarantine area for waste disposal, using your contractor bags and buckets. FEMA notes that populations become highly volatile when deprived of basic necessities for 96 hours. By day 6, families who did not prepare are going hungry. Morality is a luxury of a fed society. Property crimes, break-ins, and the looting of abandoned commercial centres begin in earnest. Law enforcement is spread incredibly thin. Many officers abandon their posts to protect their own families, knowing their electronic paychecks are meaningless anyway. You must implement the grey man concept. Blend into the misery. If you must go outside, do not look well-fed, clean, or heavily supplied. Smudge dirt on your clothes. Walk with a slump. Do not advertise that you have food, water, or power. Do not run a loud gas generator at night. Install blackout curtains so no light escapes your windows. A single flickering lantern in a sea of dark houses makes you a target. You want to appear as desperate and empty-handed as everyone else roaming the streets looking for scraps. 1 week in, fiat currency begins to lose its psychological value completely. If the banking system is perceived to be permanently damaged, a $100 bill is just dirty paper. You cannot eat it, and it burns too fast to start a fire. People finally realize that intrinsic value lies in physical goods. The shift is jarring. Your neighbor who laughed at your pantry is now staring at a garage full of luxury cars with empty gas tanks, realizing he is completely bankrupt. By day 8, a primitive barter economy emerges. People need specific, life-saving items. A mother needs baby formula. A diabetic needs insulin. A freezing family needs fuel for a camp stove. If you prepared correctly, you stockpiled barter goods: water filters, lighters, batteries, alcohol, and basic antibiotics. These items are the new gold standard. But you must practice strict operational security. Never barter at your own home. Set up a neutral trading location. Never reveal the true depth of your stockpile to anyone. Survival in complete isolation is a dangerous myth. By day 9, neighborhoods that communicate and band together will survive. Those fractured by distrust will fall victim to organized looting. You quietly network with trusted neighbors to form a mutual assistance group, or MAG. You establish a rotating neighborhood watch schedule. A community with a unified, visible perimeter defense is a hard target. Opportunistic criminals look for easy prey. Make sure your street looks like a fortress of tired, heavily armed, and alert citizens. Without refrigeration, fresh food has rotted in the grocery stores and homes. Garbage is piling up in the streets, attracting rats and feral animals. Vector-borne diseases become a localized threat. People who have been drinking contaminated water from local streams or decorative ponds begin exhibiting symptoms of severe gastrointestinal illness. This is why water purification discipline is non-negotiable. Every drop consumed must be filtered with a submicron element and purified with chlorine dioxide or boiling. Complacency here is a death sentence. The initial shock has worn off by day 12. The weak and unprepared are suffering immensely, while the prepared have settled into a rudimentary off-grid routine. The focus shifts entirely from waiting for the banks to turn back on to long-term survival. The fantasy of a quick fix is dead. You evaluate what preps worked, what failed, and what you ran out of too quickly. The mental toll of isolation is heavy, but you keep morale up by maintaining a strict daily schedule. At the 2-week mark, society stands at a crossroads. Either the financial institutions implement a systemic reset, rolling back the digital ledgers to a pre-attack state, or the collapse deepens into a protracted grid-down scenario. Even if the systems come back online, there will be massive restrictions. Bank holidays, strict withdrawal limits, and capital controls are guaranteed. Trust in the financial system is utterly destroyed. Do not rush the banks or ATMs. The crowds will be panicked and dangerous. Stay put and wait. Let us break down the deep logistics required to actually survive this. Reading about a 14-day collapse is pointless without applying the knowledge. You can survive weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. Thirst is not just a dry mouth. It is the slow, agonizing shutdown of your internal organs. You need to store a minimum of 14 gallons per person. You need gravity-fed water filters that can process contaminated river water into drinking water. Store unscented household bleach to kill viruses that filters miss. You beat the fragile just-in-time supply chain by becoming your own grocery store. Build a 3-month supply of food you actually eat. Rotate this stock regularly. For long-term insurance, invest in staple foods packaged in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers inside 5-gallon food-grade buckets. White rice, pinto beans and rolled oats can last 25 years stored this way. But remember, you cannot cook raw beans on a dead electric stove. Stockpile alternative cooking methods like propane camp stoves or rocket stoves. During a systemic collapse, the police are not coming. 911 will ring out to a dead switchboard. You are your own first responder. Reinforce your door frames with 3-inch steel screws. Install solid deadbolts. Depending on your local laws and personal comfort, equip yourself with defensive tools. Firearms are the great equalizer in a worst-case scenario, but they require professional training and secure storage. High-lumen tactical flashlights and robust physical fitness are also critical aspects of your personal defense strategy. Do not be soft. Now, let us address the counter-argument. You might think the National Guard is going to roll down Main Street with water buffaloes and MREs to save the day. That is the standard pushback. But let us look at the math. The military relies on the exact same civilian logistical supply chains for fuel and transport. If digital payments are dead, civilian fuel depots lock down. The Guard cannot deploy without diesel. They will be spread so thin protecting federal infrastructure that your subdivision will not make the priority list. When the grid goes dark, the cloud goes with it. You cannot Google how to treat a wound or purify water when the cell towers are dead. You need a command center that works completely offline. I built Protocol Survival to be that system. Secure your inventory and access your free training modules now while you still have a signal. Download the app, sync your data, and keep your phone protected. Your knowledge base must be localized, just like your food supply. Go to protocolsurvival.com today. Phase 3 is the emergence. Day 15 arrives and the banks have not rebooted. The government silence is deafening. You must begin scouting the immediate area. You leave your perimeter for the first time, moving quietly through the neighborhood. The danger assessment has changed. You are no longer just looking out for opportunistic criminals. You are looking out for desperate parents who will do anything to feed their starving kids. That is the most dangerous adversary you can face. Someone with nothing left to lose. By day 20, the silence of the suburbs is absolute. The distant hum of highway traffic is completely gone. You see abandoned vehicles resting on flat tires. Lawns are overgrown. Homes look dark and lifeless. But behind those closed doors, people are suffering. You might encounter a local distribution point set up by whatever remnants of local government remain. The lines will be miles long. Armed guards will be tense, rationing out half bottles of water and single crackers to desperate crowds standing in the blistering heat. You must avoid those distribution camps at all costs. If your supplies hold out, stay away. These localized FEMA camps or National Guard checkpoints will be epicenters of desperation, disease, and sudden violence. A single rumor that the water truck is running dry will spark a riot in seconds. Relying on the state during a systemic collapse puts your fate in the hands of overwhelmed, undersupplied bureaucracies. Maintain your independence. You prepared for this so you would not have to beg in a bread line surrounded by desperate men. Day 30. You begin looking at sustainable ways to source water, like setting up rainwater catchment systems with your tarps. You use a ham radio, listening on shortwave frequencies, trying to gather intelligence on what is happening globally. You hear fragmented broadcasts from amateur operators. The clearinghouses are permanently corrupted. A new system is being built, but it will take months to roll out. The realization hits you. This is not a temporary outage. The reset is permanent. The old way of life is gone forever. Phase 4. The long haul. By day 31, social collapse matures into local fiefdoms. Neighbourhoods that banded together have established hard borders. Checkpoints are manned by exhausted fathers holding hunting rifles. The police have effectively dissolved into these local militias. The rule of law is localised. A block away, a different gang might hold territory. You navigate these borders with extreme caution. Trade between these groups is tense and highly regulated. You are living in a modern dark age, entirely disconnected from the global grid. Day 40 brings true starvation for the unprepared. The human body can only consume its own muscle mass for so long. The people who mocked your deep pantry are now fading away. This is where the emotional toll is the heaviest. You will have to look a starving neighbour in the eye and say no. You cannot feed them without compromising your own children's survival. The guilt of that decision will haunt you, but it is the grim reality of a broken world. You chose protection over popularity. By day 50, new currencies solidify. Without a functioning digital banking sector, precious metals step in as high-level stores of value. Silver coins, specifically fractional junk silver, like pre-64 US dimes and quarters, become the standard for major transactions. Ammunition is highly valuable, but trading it is a massive security risk. You never hand someone the very item they could use to rob you a minute later. Your most valuable currency, however, is your skill set. Medical knowledge, mechanical repair, and agricultural expertise are priceless. Day 60 tests your mind more than your body. The banking kill switch stripped away all the modern comforts we use to self-soothe. The sudden silence of a neighbourhood without cars. The anxiety of the unknown. It causes massive psychological trauma. Survivalism is 80% mindset and 20% gear. You must develop a stoic approach to this new reality. Accept that the systems you relied upon are dead. Shift your focus entirely to what you can control: your safety, your daily tasks, and your family's morale. Day 80. What you know has officially replaced what you own. Supplies dwindle no matter how much you hoarded. You transition from consuming to producing. You are growing high-yield, caloric gardens, planting potatoes and squash in the torn-up front lawn. You are purifying water from stagnant sources without relying solely on commercial filters. You are patching clothes and repairing solar power banks to keep your medical devices running. The skills you learned in the Protocol Survival course are keeping you alive when the freeze-dried food runs low. Day 100 marks the new normal. Perhaps a fragmented announcement comes over the shortwave radio. A new central bank digital currency is being forced upon the surviving population as the only way to re-enter the sanctioned economy. Or perhaps the fractionalization is permanent and the nation has broken into regional territories. Either way, the old world is a memory. But you are still standing. Your family is fed, your perimeter is secure. You survived the initial shock, the brutal lockdown, and the long, dark haul. A cashless collapse is a terrifying prospect. Our entire modern civilization rests on the digital transfer of ones and zeros. But human beings are incredibly resilient. For 99% of human history, we survived and thrived without digital banking, predictive algorithms, or massive supermarkets. By understanding the fragility of the system and taking deliberate steps to insulate your family today, you remove yourself from the pool of victims. You become an asset to your community. You take your digital wealth and transform it into physical security. Store the water, buy the extra food, secure your home, educate yourself before the transaction terminals go dark. The banking kill switch may be a modern technological threat, but the solution to it is ancient. Self-reliance, uncompromising preparedness, and an unbreakable will to protect the people you love. Remember this when you look at the blinking lights on your router or the balance on your phone screen. The grid isn't what keeps the lights on, it's what keeps the monsters out.